Thank you for that kind introduction. First of all, I'd like to thank NIWA and Primrose and Tumbleweeds and Tina for sponsoring this event. And I'd like to thank all my friends who came out to support me, Westside Riders. I have a wonderful riding community here, and I'm just so appreciative. I also have some other friends, some author friends, and of course my wonderful and supportive husband. So thank you all. As you heard, I did not have a conventional upbringing, but through all that chaos and turmoil, there were two constants. And that was my beloved Aunt Linda, who passed away a year and a half ago, and my mother. My Aunt Linda was a wonderful, warm woman with a great sense of humor, and she taught me that it was okay to be funny and be a woman. She gave me the gift of Carol Burnett and Irma Bombeck. I got my first Irma Bombeck book for my 8th birthday, and Goldie Hawn and old reruns of Laugh-In. So I really credit a lot of my personality to her, for better or worse. And my first book, The Universe is a Very Big Place, which I will not be showcasing today, but there are a few up there, is a comedy, a romantic comedy with the emphasis on comedy. So if you want to laugh, I've heard it's pretty funny, and some people agree with me. And the other influence was my mother. And my mother did not like the mundane. She liked the mystical and the fantastic. And she filled our house with Shirley MacLaine and those Time Life books with the face on Mars, and Carlos Castaneda and J.R.R. Tolkien, and anything we could find that was wondrous and magical. Maybe it was because we did have such a hard upbringing, so she was always trying to boost us up with that. And her influence is felt a lot in this book that I will be showcasing tonight, The Witches of Darkroot. I'd like to speak just a little bit about The Witches of Darkroot. It is the story of Maggie Maddock, who has been raised in the mythical town of Darkroot, Oregon, the most magical place in the Pacific Northwest. She and her sisters have been groomed by their coven-leading witchy mother to take over the family business someday. But Maggie, like most young women in small towns, has plans of her own and wants to leave it behind to find a normal life. Now 7 years have passed, and Maggie is called back to Darkroot. There, she is confronted by a dying town, a renewed sibling rivalry, and a mother who may be seriously ill. I'd like to think what sets this witchy book apart from some of the others I've read is that it reads very much like a contemporary women's fiction novel. But that's not to say there isn't magic in it. There's plenty of magical passages. You get to see spells cast under a full moon and dark shapes that twist and turn in the night. But at its heart, it's the story of Maggie's relationships with her sisters, her relationship with her mother, coming home, and ultimately finding herself. So I thought I'd read a very short passage on something that exemplifies those two things that have come together. And then afterwards, I'm going to read you a poem. So I'm not a poet, but I want to do it. So before I read the passage, I thought maybe I'd share a quick review I got that hopefully encapsulates the spirit of the book. This book didn't suck near as much as I thought it was going to. And that was written by my husband. So this is chapter 9, and for an astute observer, they will notice that all my book chapters are titled after songs from the 70s because Maggie's mother was a big time lover of 70s music, and as she's going home, she's reminiscing. So this is chapter 9, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. What is it about our childhood that makes us want to run from it and return to it all in one breath? I had hated Darkroot in my teenage years, tried to escape from it like it were Alcatraz. Yet now I was saddened because it no longer felt familiar and safe. I had spent the night in Harvest Home, lulled into a deep sleep by the warmth of the blanket and the scent of lavender under my pillow. Yet I tossed and turned all night, with dreams of a past I had hoped to forget. I had been reunited with my sisters, the girls I had grown up with, who were both my friends and my rivals. My body and mind were a jumble of emotions. I was home, for better or worse. There was one thing I was not ambivalent about, seeing my mother, Miss Sasha Shantay, the woman who had raised me, loved me, taught me, and brainwashed me. I felt like a horrible human being for even thinking it, but I didn't want to see her. I wasn't ready. The thought left me with a chill that went deep into my bones. I swallowed, scratching at an imaginary itch on my leg as I bumped along in the road beside even shame. My sister stared straight ahead, lost in her own thoughts. I wanted to touch her hand, to show her that we were in this together, but we weren't. Eve would deal with it better than me. She was floaty, breezy, whimsical, shallow. Bad couldn't penetrate her because there was nothing to penetrate. I was the one who sucked things in, letting them fester, holding on to them long after they should have been tossed away. I recalled my conversation with Michael in the grocery store just a week ago. I told him that there were reasons I had left Darkroot. 7 days ago, I thought there were many reasons. Because Ruth Ann had disappeared and nobody talked about her. Because Mary had gotten married and not a soul had objected. Because Eve was going to leave at the first chance she got, and I wanted to beat her to it. But the truth was, and it was clear to me now as we made our way back to Sister House, the truth was, I had run away from my own mother. My stomach sank as I wrestled with this revelation, braiding and unbraiding the ends of my hair until it was so gummy it held together by itself. Who runs away from their mother? Especially my mother, the beloved toast of the town, belle of the ball. People sought her out, flocked to her. I didn't remember a day going by when we didn't have a house full of visitors. There would be teas and brunches and salon-style discussions. Sometimes we'd be invited to join, dressed up like dolls, as Mother and her friends chatted about the weather, the economy, witchery, and their views on men. If you want to cast a love spell, all the power to you, Mother would say, taking a sip from her teacup. I will point you in the right direction, but I won't participate. While she invoked the craft for many reasons, love was not on that list. Love is overrated, she'd say. It makes you give up everything, and for what? To be an unappreciative, overworked housebrow with no life of your own. Just look at what it did to poor Julia. With that, she'd point to the picture of Juliana Bedbridge, dressed all in black, which hung over our mantel. If you ask me, she continued, she was much better off after the man passed. Then and only then was she free to pursue her real life. No, ladies, love has no place in this world. Men are only good for one thing. And when that's done, you need to move on. This didn't dissuade Mary, who fell madly in love with Frank after just 3 days. Or Eve, who practiced love spells on her own in the middle of the night. Pity none of the men she ever cast her spells on were worth the rat's tails she used for her invocations. As for me, I wanted to believe in love. Despite Mother's warnings, I had the sense that when your soul finds someone, that right someone, there is a magic created in the universe more powerful than any incantation. Found this on my computer. I forgot I wrote it 5 years ago, but it seemed like a fitting thing to end with. I remember writing it because I watched my own mom reading a bedtime story to my niece who was 2 years old at the time, and she did this every night for 5 years. And I remember thinking in my writer's brain, imagining my mother in the distant future when she was no longer with my niece, whose name is Freya, that she might leave behind a letter for Freya to read one day. And I thought this would fit in because we're all here because we love stories. But I think it's a good reminder that, we are living a story. And so with that, I'm not a poet, so forgive it. But what the heck. This is called A Letter to My Granddaughter on Her 18th Birthday, or Freya's Song. My darling dear, my Guinevere, though I have been absent now for many years, and perhaps you no longer remember my face, covered with folds like the pages of a book we once read, of kings and fairies and things that might be when you sat small upon my knee before succumbing to your bed. I wanted you to know, my queen, that my stories were not yet through. Though I may have taken my place among the bards of yesterday, I still reach out from time and space to tell one final tale to you. Your future is a living story, empty pages to be written in, with ink that cannot be erased. As you start on your adventure, do not rush towards story's end. Notice lilies in the springtime. Count the stars that light the day. Real heroes are not forged in glory, but in quiet journeys along the way. The greatest deeds a champion does are those we do not write about. Small moments that make up our lives are more important in the end than all the dragons we have slain or fleeting glimpse of unicorn. These cannot match the sun at morn or the smile of a friend. Dream big, act small in kindness, and my princess, do not forget, each life is a chapter in a far greater story written across the universe. It is the small words that weave our stories together. Be thoughtful with pen when contributing your verse.